Yeah, my friends would probably like it because it's really fun, and they will probably learn a lot from it because I learned a lot from.
We knew that by doing a kind of video game, we will get a high school student excited about playing it. What was the most surprising was to see people working in the industry being also very enthusiastic about the game, because it was the first time that they saw their area of expertise displayed in a very fun and interactive way.
The game we're working on is a sort of introduction for people to get into the actual engineering aspect of hydropower, teaching them both conceptually and operationally how they can work with hydropower.
It's been a great way to teach them basic concepts of the different types of hydropower. There's a scoring mechanism, there are challenges, and they seem to be really excited about learning about this.
I think this game would be interesting for all spectrum of the age groups. For example, the easier task would be really interesting for high school students, while the higher end of, let's say, task 4 of this game would be really interesting for us adults who have a college degree or higher.
Anybody can download it. You will learn a ton of things through this game. The very first thing that you are going to learn is the concept about how moving water can create electricity. And that's one of the most important concepts about hydropower. Hydropower technology is not just one thing. There is runoff river hydro, there is dime hydropower plants, and most importantly, there is pump storage hydro. This is maybe the coolest kind of technology because it represents 93% of energy battery within the US right now, large-scale energy battery.
What really surprises me was their interest in more technical details of how hydropower works, especially in terms of different types of technology works, such as pump storage hydro, run-of-river hydropower dam, and the conventional hydropower dam. I think they're more interested in learning more about this game instead of scores. Although score, they care, but I think they want to learn more about the story behind the scene about the technology.
It's just a unique experience compared to what's actually available out there. There's not a lot of things out there that are publicly available for people to get used to the actual engineering experience. It's this thing that allows them to work with simulations as an attempt to get that work experience before they jump into it.